What is up, everybody? We are doing this again, hopefully. Um, Having issues, a little bit of technical issues in the studio here. Yeah. So, Bill's going to be a little bit late. So, we can either kind of stall out for a little bit or we can just get going.
Hey, we can get going. Hell, he'll fill in as soon as he gets here. He'll take it over.
More than likely. So, today we are talking about.
Yeah.
No, we're just having little technical issues. Things aren't working out here. I don't know why. Because everything kind of seems to hate me.
Well, we do like to call it controlled chaos.
Oh, we are just chaos tonight. So tonight we're talking about the Maury Island Incident of 1947. So last week we talked about the Roswell, New Mexico crash.
Right. Or you should say Bill talked about it.
Well, yeah, Bill talked about it. So this was the Maury Island was June 21st. Roswell was back in July. So this is way before even then.
Yeah, a couple weeks before Roswell.
Yeah, and then June 24th. I mean, this was like the big one even before Kenneth Arnold's sightings over the Cascades. So that was Kenneth Arnold was June 24th. This was June 21st, 47. 47 seemed to be the hot year for UFO flap going on there.
Yeah.
So,
kind of a way.
Yeah, so I'm still a little blurry. So everybody, my camera's a little blurry. So we're just kind of, we're going to go work it with it and try to just work it when it happens. Anyway, so I want you to picture this, man. We've got, it's a brisk June 21st morning, 1947. You've got a little boat that goes out there that's piloted by Harold Dahl. He's got his son and he's got a buddy with him.
And a dog.
And they go out.
Yeah.
They go out and they see these 6 large circular donut-shaped flying objects appear over his boat. One of the crafts descends over the boat, and it looks like it's very unstable. It's crashing and everything. And it begins to eject, quote, lava-like hot debris, some which lands on Dull's boat. The boat is damaged. The son's arm is burned, and it killed the family dog. So already we're in a John Wick situation there. Well, killing the dog is a John Wick situation.
That it is.
Another craft dropped towards the one that had descended. The first one stopped, dropping debris, stabilized, and they all rose and took off. So in that kind of a scenario, it would be more of a rescue mission, I guess you'd call it.
Okay, I'll go with that, rescue mission. I mean, molten. You said it was molten lava material.
Lava-like metal slag.
Oh.
So okay.
And was there anything in there that said how long that duration of the, them seeing it and everything happening?
me go to the comment section and see if anybody's putting in a comment on that one.
Because I mean, I didn't see anything, but I was just kind of wondering.
No, we don't seem to see anything. Our trusty researcher has chimed in on that one. Yeah, so apparently it went on for a little bit of time. God, my video is really lagging. We do have one comment. Sounds scary, though. Yes, it would be kind of scary with molten metal being dumped on your boat and your dog dying.
Yeah.
So what happens is Dahl, his son, they get a little scared. So they take the boat and they run it ashore. They get out of that situation as quickly as possible. They run that thing ashore in case, it's going to sink. And then they hide in some of the cliffs, some caves up in the cliffs there. The ship appeared distressed, and the reason for that was the falling hot debris. So they were obviously scared that it was going to sink, so they had to do something to get out of that situation.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But I mean, I didn't see anything that they went up and hit up in caves or anything like that. Did I miss that somewhere?
Yeah, that was another little bit.
Oh, there's a little tidbit on it.
Yeah, there was a little tidbit on them running ashore and hiding in islands.
Hi, what did I miss?
You missed everything, man.
Yeah, I know. I had a slowpoke driver that decided that they wanted to drive about 10 miles under the speed limit, and I'm just like, I hate people right now. Washington drivers, why do you have to do that? Can't you just, I don't know, pull over and let the long train of traffic that's that you are backing up just get past you? I'm sure not all Washington drivers are this bad, but this jerk was. Okay, I feel better now.
Out of your system?
Bill, the show's over. You can leave anytime now.
No, I'm not in Washington. There was a Washington driver that was in front of me and decided they wanted to hold up traffic. I got a message, so I was relaying why I was referring to Washington drivers. Anyway,
Anyway, so we're talking about the Maury Island Incident, 1947.
By the way, you all can hear me okay. By the way, you can all hear me correct, okay? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah?
We got you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Continue. Maury Island. Boat runs ashore.
All right. The boat runs ashore. It's a possibility of its damage is going to sink a little bit. So Dahl, his son, and the buddy, they run this thing up on the boat to get away from this possible ship. Of course, we're having little technical issues. I'm having people run background checks and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so what happens? Dahl and his son, they run ashore. They hide in some cliffs, and they're basically just trying to get away from this thing. The flying saucer is repaired by another saucer. They all take off. What happens is Howard Dahl has debris on his ship. So he's got some of this molten slag, as it's called, and he takes it in, and they're showing it off. He takes it to his employer, Fred Chrisman, who then takes the fragments to a sci-fi pulp seller at the time, Ray Palmer.
Ray Palmer? Why do I know that name? Oh, yeah. From the DC Comics series. Ray Palmer.
Yes.
Sorry.
God, chaos runs wild tonight.
Well, if you ever watched Green Arrow, then you'll get the reference.
Yep, I got it.
I got it.
Okay,
too.
good. Okay.
Anyways,
You
so
can
then,
continue now. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
all right. So we did talk about Kenneth Arnold's sighting on June 24th. Now, this was on June 21st when everything happened. June 24th, Kenneth Arnold is flying over the Cascades when he notices a bunch of like flying saucers. He's the one that's coined the phrase flying saucers because he said these things looked like they were milk saucers skipping across the water. All right, so now here's where everything connects a little bit. So Palmer gets a hold of Kenneth Arnold to help investigate everything. So now Kenneth Arnold, who has seen these flying saucers, is now helping to investigate everything else.
Interesting.
Interesting. Now, the really interesting thing is this is where the Men in Black legend begins. They show up at Doll's house.
Man, we should have queued up some music right then and there.
How long did they show up to Doll's house?
I believe that was a couple days later after he's already kind of gone through. They've gone through the investigation. They've gone to the press about this. It's kind of been a little bit of time, and then suddenly the Men in Black are there saying,
Probably within 48 to 72 hours, something like that.
probably something like that.
Yeah.
But they start telling him there are going to be consequences if you continue to talk about this. So don't talk about this. This is something you don't want to talk about. It's the basic MIB spiel. You don't want to do this. You don't want to talk about it. This ain't going to happen.
We'll throw you in Guantanamo Bay before we throw you in. We throw you in Guantanamo Bay time period.
Yeah.
We'll make you disappear.
All right.
We'll discredit you.
All right. So now we go forward to July 31st, 1947. All right. So up to this point, the FBI is investigating Dahl and Chrisman. Dahl and Chrisman actually end up to a point. This is after the Men in Black, who turn around and they say, "Listen, it was all a hoax. We made it up. We don't want anything to do with this." So it's your basic scare tactics a little bit.
You all right there?
Yeah, dog. All right, so there's a meeting in Tacoma, July 31st, 1947, to discuss the Maury Island incident with Air Force and the Army and people who have seen the UFO. Dahl and Chrisman admitted at this time that it was a hoax and they wanted out. They want gone. They're out. They're just done. They don't want anything else to do with any of this. At this point, the two Army specialists who had helped with Arnold's investigation, they took the box of debris from Dahl and Chrisman, and now they get into a B-52 and they leave out of Tacoma, and they are going to take this down to a base in California. And the interesting thing is, it crashes. The B-52 crashes outside of Kelso, Washington. So, I mean, some of the conspiracies are the plane with the debris might have been shot down in order to keep the information from getting out. Dahl and Chrisman eventually said they made up the story, but they were forced into doing this, possibly. I mean, once again, we got the Men in Black coming in. We got the FBI sitting down with everybody. And people are saying, hey, listen, you didn't see anything. And if you continue talking about this, there's going to be consequences. The two Army specialists, they ended up dying in the crash. There apparently was two other passengers on board who were given parachutes and told to jump. And they got out safely, but the box of debris was lost. There is actually in Kelso, you can actually go to I think it's a library or one of the museums where they actually have the B-52 debris, the B-25 debris uh, on display.
Yes, I did see something like that not so long ago.
So let's talk about Men in Black. And do we think that maybe the reason why the guys backed out of everything is because of the fact that they were coerced by said Men in Black to shut the hell up?
Oh,
Well, it just goes to show that it just seems to be standard operating procedure of Big Brother is like, if they want to scuttle something, then they're going to strong arm whoever is, whoever's a potential witness. Either they're going to strong arm them and they either pay them to shut up, they threaten them to shut up, or they do whatever they can to discredit them and make them look like a kook, and like so that nobody believes them anyway. I mean, that's psyops 101 right there. The MIB is not knocking on my door.
I would go check your door.
No,
uh,
I'm good.
I just find it interesting that the Men in Black show up at all these incidences within 24, 48 hours, just that quick. And I know they're government agency and all, but it just seems like it feels like they had some knowledge that something's going to happen or in that area, in my opinion.
Well, it seems to be with all Men in Black. I swear to God, it's only Dr. Pepper.
Sure. And that's the problem, that it's Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, so it always seems to be in the case of any UFO encounter that the Men in Black tend to show up 24 hours, sometimes an hour later. It all kind of depends on how fast you get that word out that, hey, I saw something, and the Men in Black shows up. So,
to play devil's,
every little nook and cranny of every city, state. I mean,
well, okay, so to play devil's advocate here for a second here, right? Like, say for instance, the government's telling us the partial truth, and that these weren't aliens, but yet they were government projects, right? You can bet that for security purposes, just throwing this out here, that for security purposes, if there is something that is a government project, whether they're high altitude weather balloons or whatever BS nonsense they want to tell us, that if they're there, they're going to have contingencies in place in case something happens, and they're going to have people on standby, so that they can get there rather quickly. So, like again, just throwing this out there that if it was something like of a government project nature, then that would explain why you have MIBs knocking on doors within 2 days of an incident happening.
right. So they always seem to be, I mean, you figure back then it's going to be always a message coming in.
Via teletype. I mean, that's going to be the fastest way of communication. They're not going to trust phone lines because, I mean, phone lines weren't that secure back then. I mean, unless it was a direct line, and the only person who really had direct lines that was the president. Like Truman had a direct line placed in his house in Independence, Missouri, that went straight to Washington D.C. It was a direct line, um, no other operators in the middle of that, because that all back then everything was you called your operator, you said I want to talk to this person, and they physically directed you to that line. Like
yes,
so.
Of course, they wouldn't ever be monitoring phone calls or anything else.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying is like they wouldn't trust, like a telephone conversation for fear of someone listening in. So a teletype is actually going to be a lot more secure in that regard because it's direct from teletype to teletype. So it's like I imagine that that's how information got sent in a timely manner. Was it was still the age of teletype.
Right. So I mean, what your 2 cents? Okay, let's talk about the crashing B-20
Five, the
B-25.
B-25.
Yes,
Okay.
I mean we could quite easily go to Kelso. It's not far from any of us,
No,
really.
not at all. Right? Yeah, yeah.
Go
I mean,
look at the evidence.
I think we have a road trip, in the works right here. We could go on a road trip. Yeah, let's set up a road trip and go. That way we could do a follow-up report to this podcast.
Yeah. I mean it's just literally up the road.
I mean, sometimes I have a good idea. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I was just waiting for something to come out of not King James,
Oh, more.
not His Highness. Or are you King James this week?
No, just you know what? I guess I'm gonna have to go back to the other way. All right, Bill. Next week.
I was just surprised as well.
No. It's just been a long weekend.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully it's been a good weekend.
It was had grandkids. But back to this. The B-52 crash outside of Kelso.
Yep.
So what kind of crash debris do they have on that they let the public see?
The landing strut from the nose.
Yeah, I was gonna
That's
say
it?
I just saw a video on it. It looked like maybe a piece of the landing. Whatnot.
Yeah, it's a landing strut and a little bit of debris from the plane, but nothing else.
Well, that could come from anywhere. I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, I oh,
Well, no, I mean we do know the plane crashed regardless. So we take out all the aliens, we take out all the MIBs, we take out all the whatever they're hauling. This is on record that the B-25 took off out of Tacoma and it had issues and crash landed outside of Kelso. That is true. That is
okay.
110% accurate. The B-25 crashed outside of Kelso. So you take out all the other bits, and that is 100% true that happens. The plane crashed. It came down. The pilot and co-pilot, they were
Bill
killed.
has alien children. I have proof. What kind of shenanigan nonsense is that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't. Did you?
If James and I vanish, blame Bill. What are you talking about? Blame me.
Anyway, so the plane crash is we know this happened.
Weren't they
Plane
using that
crashes.
crash as a
A cover up for what?
Well, I mean, even if we're not even talking about a cover story, the plane crashes. A lot of people would say that the plane crashes because they're trying to get rid of the debris and they're trying to kill the story. And
So you scatter the debris over the Washington mountainside?
that's
You
the
scatter
conspiracy.
you scatter the debris and hope that it lands in the Columbia River there because Kelso's near the Columbia. You scatter it so people aren't going to go look for it. They're not. Exactly. They're not going to. Like a plane crashes. What do? Well, they mobilize search parties, right? Search parties go look for debris, crash debris. They look for survivors, i.e., or if it's not a rescue, then it becomes recovery. I mean, like, I have a hard time believing that if there's something that's so valuable that they're, that's being, transported on a military transport of all things, you know, it's military transport, a B-25, that, like, they're just gonna scuttle it and hope that, whatever was being carried is just gonna be lost in the landscape there, and no one's gonna go, you know, that seems a little far fetched. I mean,
The
that seems to work.
plane
No,
crashed.
no, no. What I'm saying is, like, the that
Hang on.
conspiracy theory.
The
Okay,
plane does crash. The
right,
Army, this is also before the Air Force breaks away from the Army.
correct.
So
Well, right before, yeah.
the military goes up and
Hmm.
retrieves bodies and as much debris as they can. The debris that was left behind was the nose landing gear and a little bit of pieces of wreckage that they didn't want to do.
Okay.
Now
I'm
some of the
sorry.
comments,
I guess I misunderstood, because I guess what I thought I was hearing was that they deliberately, like, scuttle the airplane, as in, like, it deliberately crashes so that they can hide the whatever the contents that they're carrying. I'm like, and that doesn't make sense to me.
well, the
You know,
conspiracy is that it was shot down by a whole different agency to kill the story, kill everything. That's just a conspiracy theory.
and again, that doesn't make sense, because if you shoot it down to kill the story, all you're doing is you're creating another mess that other people are going to potentially be brought in on to. So I mean,
Well,
the security in me just doesn't buy that theory, because
well, okay.
that makes more of that makes more mess than it cleans up the mess. If that means, that makes any sense.
All right. Well, think of it this way, okay? Area 51.
Hmm.
Okay. What do we know about it? We know what the theory is. We know the reality. Area 51 is a skunk's works. It's out in the desert. You can take off and fly. All these stealth planes were developed and
Right.
in and out of there.
Hmm.
Your brand new planes that are still in, secret. And I'm sure they have Men in Black and the military are going to come after me any second now. We do know that all that happens in Area 51. Okay. Now, if a plane crashes, a test plane crashes in the desert, they tend to hush that up really quick.
Right.
So a lot of people were going to be saying, okay, well, the big thing is to go out to Tikaboo Peak in the desert and watch the military base. A lot of people say, yeah, if you go sit on this mountainside, and you look at the base, because you're like, 5-7 miles away at that point, because they took the main mountain and said everybody couldn't be there. Basically, what you do is you just brush it off. That's how come they've said, all these years, oh yeah, Area 51, we don't know what you're talking about, yada yada yada, and it's because of the fact it's a testing site.
Hmm.
So you want to go aliens, you want to go, top secret aircraft. I mean, what's one way you could debunk something, even if you've had a crash and you've had a bigger mess? You just, oh yeah, it's nothing. So the B-25, it crashes. You say, oh, it had engine problems. You just brush it off as mechanical failure. We lost some pilots, which those were the very first two Air Force casualties in the books.
Nothing to see here. This is just a regular flight of a regular aircraft doing its normal routine thing, and something happened and it crashed. Stuff happens.
Yeah. There's nothing to see here. It's just a basic crash.
Plane crashes happen all the time.
Yep.
Okay.
B-25, it's old.
I just have a hard time buying into that a counter agency or a different agency shoots it down to scuttle the story when you know that would present another story in and of itself. And journalists being journalists, they haven't changed in American journalists haven't changed in 240 years. They follow the story, they dig deeper, and they keep digging until they find something, and then they have this epic scoop. So, like it seems to be counterintuitive for me to think that like one agency is going to be like, okay, we're going to go ahead and shoot this plane down so that there's, so that we tell the whole world that there's really nothing to see here. I mean, I don't know. It boggles my mind. Sorry, I'm still on that. That it boggles my mind.
All right. Well, we do have a comment. Could the debris have caused the crash if it was already unstable and causing an alien ship to have issues? That would be another thing. Let's say it's radioactive material. It being.
Who's saying Bill shot JFK? Why would I shoot my own cousin? Hello? Sorry. And it was before my time. I wasn't even born yet.
James is having fun. That's all that matters.
I will slap you.
That is my life goal with these live casts. To type out
I will smite you.
Just break James.
I will smite you.
Oh.
It is all about breaking James.
Yeah, you had me earlier.
And I didn't even try. I just read a comment. So really, blame the commenter on that one, not the reader of said comment.
So let's go back to that. Could the debris have been radioactive and maybe it was setting off something inside the plane to have caused it to crash? So let's go with the scenario one, the B-25 mechanical issues. It crashes. It crashes just because it's an older plane. It has issues. It crashes. Scenario two, counter agency shoots it down because, hey, we don't want anyone to know about this debris. We've tried to hush it up. Scenario three, the material on board is radioactive or sets off something else and maybe causes an oxygen line to fracture or something else like that.
Something of like magnetics or something like that throws off the mechanics of the plane. See, that I could make sense to me. If it is in fact, alien debris and we don't know what it is. Yeah, I mean, I could surmise that it is quite possible that foreign material could react adversely to the known mechanics of our aircraft of that time. Is it possible? Yeah, I think that's possible.
James?
I'm with Bill here. It just makes perfect sense all the way around.
I mean, I think that third scenario is probably more likely if it is what it is. I mean, I think that's I have a hard time, like, if they're going to, take the time and the effort and energy into transporting this material, the quickest way possible with the least amount of people seeing it, right? It again, I go back to, like, it doesn't make a lick of sense to me to destroy said aircraft so that they can create a smoke and mirrors, right? It makes more sense to me that whatever it is that they were hauling, that material caused some form of malfunction within the aircraft that caused it to crash. That makes more sense to me.
I'm just gonna throw this out there, just thinking about this. What was the weather like on that day? Could there have been some weather affecting that plane? Maybe.
From everything I've looked at, it sounds like it was just a nice, cool, clear night, nothing major.
I was just thinking maybe weather related issue maybe as well. But if it's clear, then no, that's out the window.
Right. Right. I mean, like mechanical failure is that's an easy pill to swallow, right? And what causes mechanical failure? Well, sometimes parts just wear out. Like you said, it's a 1925. So the B-25, potentially had been in production since 1925, and if it was an older one, yeah, we could be dealing with worn parts, or it's just a matter of, again, whatever they're transporting caused some sort of a mechanical failure, whether it's in the avionics or what have you. I don't know. I mean,
I did.
I don't know.
I tend to side with one of those. Definitely, yeah, makes things a little more possible.
I'm getting a comment in the comments section. I don't know if you guys can read the comments as well.
I can't see comments at all, other than what comes up on the ticker tape to screw with me.
Yeah. No, it's not really to mess with you. It's to mess with James.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
We got a comment that says, I was reading something that said the plane caught fire and then crashed.
Well, okay. Then going back to that, what caused the fire? I mean, what causes a plane to catch fire in midair?
Well, it's a B-25. It's not going to have an inboard oxygen unit like today's planes would.
Right.
So that would have to be something that,
if anything, it has holes in it because they had gunner ports. I mean, unless they sealed them up, but you've got to B-25s were bombers. Bombers had a crew of something like 11 men, I believe. You had two pilots, you had a navigator, you had uh, the bombardier, you had the radio operator, and then the rest of them were gunners for the defense of their flying.
Right. By the sounds of it, this thing had been converted into just a transport plane.
Okay. Well, then either way, what we're talking about is we're not talking about something that is pressurized for passengers. But then again, it did say that they had passengers, so there was a couple passengers there. So I mean, essentially, it was converted into a cargo plane.
So then, if it's converted to haul passengers and cargo, then maybe it was pressurized, but maybe it was not done the correct way because, like you said, anything can happen with these planes. That's
the
thing with avionics and everything. You can have a brand new plane roll out of the factory and bust hydraulic lines, 200 miles away from the factory.
Right. I mean, didn't you tell me a couple years back that there was a brand new plane that came off the line and it ended up crashing off of its maiden flight or something like that out of South America or something like that? I can't remember. But I mean, yeah, stuff like that happens all the time.
Yeah. So I mean, even if it's a B-29, they've converted it over. It's a fact. The plane has crashed. So was it carrying radioactive material? Was it carrying whatnot? I mean, the whole thing is, we know it crashed. We know that Ronald Dahl took all the stuff, gave it to people. Men in Black came, said, hey, won't be talking about this. And then when the evidence was given to these Army specialists to fly it down, it ends up crashing.
And the material mysteriously disappears forever.
Well, I mean, the preliminary findings indicated the mineral remains were ordinary indigenous rocks or possibly fragments of a meteor. So if you've got a plane that catches fire and crashes, whatever evidence you've got is pretty much just going to be obliterated. Because, like you said, the B-25 is a bomber. So a bomber just impact into a mountainside, fireball.
Scorched earth.
Scorched earth.
Take a run up to that crash site.
Yeah. Do we know where the crash site itself is? Can people go up to there and poke around?
I would have to look it up, but I know it's on a Goble Creek. So it's just outside of Kelso.
Okay.
So I could figure out where the debris is, and then they will have the location of where it was.
I got a message from our researcher. Yeah, lava like would come off looking like indigenous, mineral material. So
Once it cools off, yeah.
So it's quite possible that like someone wouldn't think twice about seeing lava and think, oh, it's like you said, oh, it's a natural phenomenon that came off of a comet.
Makes sense.
So what do we think about Ronald Dole's initial sighting?
I'd say for me, there's really not a whole lot of information.
Yeah, exactly.
Pure hoax all the way, in my opinion. I mean, all these other sightings, and like Roswell, and a lot more information put out there than you got more witnesses. And
Maury Island does have a burning saucer festival.
So they're embracing the pop culture aspect of it, just like Roswell does.
Yeah. I say road trip.
Yeah, sure, why not? Now, Maury incident happened prior to Roswell or after Roswell?
Before. It was the very first thing that happened. So you had
Okay, so here's a red flag for me, right? In like, bear with me for a moment. Here's a red flag for me. So they're real quick to scuttle Maury Island as fast as humanly possible, right? Now Roswell happens, and at first they're like, "Oh, a UFO crashed," and then the Pentagon tells the local military, like, "No, you go roll that back," and say that it was, an experiment gone wrong. Like, okay, well, it's an experiment gone wrong, and now that just fuels this whole, what really happened conspiracy. Now, I have a hard time believing that like they're gonna go just ballistic on scuttling this and wrapping this up and covering this up, and then botch so badly over here on this other thing that happens a few days later. You know what I mean? I mean, unless of course, Maury happens and then Roswell happens, and then as Roswell is happening, they're trying to wrap up Maury, and that's where the cover up comes up. It's like, oh, we had two of these incidents now. We really need to like hush this all up. And so I guess I could see. I guess I just answered my own question. Really, is
all right. Well,
why would they scuttle it up?
Let me give you the timeline. So June 21st, 1947 is the Maury Island Incident.
June 21st.
June 21st. June 24th is the Kenneth Arnold sighting as he's flying over the Cascades, where he describes it as a saucer of milk skipping over the water is what it looked like. So we saw a fleet of these.
So that was what, 3 days after the Maury incident?
3 days after that.
Okay.
Okay. July 1947 is Roswell.
I think that was mid.
So almost a month later. Right?
I believe Roswell was July.
I don't recall, Senator. either way, these
Like
two
2 weeks later.
like
So
2 weeks.
Roswell was
Okay.
2 weeks later. Thank you, research. Roswell was July 7th. So you've got June 21st and then July 7th.
So 2 weeks later. So, um, man, that just still blows me away that like the military is so careless as to say, oh yeah, it was UFOs, and then Pentagon says roll that back, and then they roll it back, and then it's like, you're so hush hush 2 weeks ago on this other incident, and now you're like you're loose lips on this one, and then you're rolling it back. That you know,
Here's a
I
scenario. Here's a
I
scenario.
I failed to see their logic in the handling of it.
Let me throw out a scenario here, and we'll see
Okay.
what happens. So Maury Island happens. You got the Men in Black come in. You've got the evidence. You know, the Men in Black say, "Hey, listen, you didn't see nothing. We're going to come after you. We don't want you to talk about this." They give the stuff to the Army specialists. The Army specialists are flying. Plane happens to crash, whether that's on purpose or accident, it crashes.
Mhm.
2 weeks later, you got Roswell. You've got a little tiny station, a military station in Roswell. So all the evidence comes in, and what's his name decides, I'm just, people are asking about it. It's a little tiny station. They probably haven't got the basic hush hush order on this one.
Well, they did within 24 hours, because like that was the thing is like it was whoever was in charge there had told the local papers that it was that it was a UFO object that had crashed, and then the Pentagon gets a hold of them within 24 hours and says roll it back. So it's like one day they were saying it was a UFO. The next day they said, oh, sorry, we were mistaken about that. It was actually we're working on weather balloons, and that's what it was. So it's like,
well, okay, going back a little bit, Ronald Dahl, him turning around and saying this is a hoax, kind of would actually defeat that first sighting. So technically speaking, if you wanted to be a conspiracy theorist, let me put on a little tinfoil hat here. So Ronald Dahl gets the evidence, says, yeah, it was a UFO. Men in Black come say, no, it wasn't. He turns around with the FBI and says, oh, yeah, we made it all up. Government's already thinking, our job is done. We take the evidence, we get rid of it, we hide it, and no one's the wiser.
And then Roswell happens.
Then Roswell happens, and you got a hot shot, that's like, oh, yeah, we found this, and it's cool, and it's everything. And then his superiors get a hold of him and say, that was a weather balloon. And he comes back and says, yeah, I was mistaken. I'm sorry. That was a weather balloon. Because, we didn't have fast forward communications like we do now, where you can just pick up and text somebody and emails and everything else. Everything is kind of a little bit slower. So,
Right.
You got a hot shot in a little podunk town. He's probably didn't get the message, or if he got the letter across his desk, he was like, what the hell? I don't need to know about this. Like if something happened here in Scappoose, a lot of people were probably just like, whatever. It doesn't matter. Scappoose, nothing happens. Going to the comments. I am so curious to know if the dog was still alive after this. How did the dog die, if not? The dog actually did die from the hot debris. So the dog did die.
Direct impact.
Body. It was a John Wick moment. Those of us that have dogs would turn that into a John Wick moment. Hey, you kill my dog and dump a bunch of crap on my boat. And I probably wouldn't run the boat into the ground anywhere. I'd probably just start popping caps because,
Right.
Next comment we got here. But if it was a hoax, there wouldn't have been debris. So if Ronald Dahl was hoaxed, where did we get the debris from that was sent down?
Well, that's the $1 million question right there. Is like, so the now we're getting into the, was there debris, alleged debris, that sort of thing. So if it was a hoax, and you're right, if it's a hoax, then what was the purpose of this aircraft that crashed?
Right. But see, that's the thing, is the debris was at that meeting in Tacoma. That was on July 31st, 1947, to discuss it with the Air Force and the Army. So all that debris actually went to this giant meeting where you had all the big time, the FBI, you had the Army, you had the Air Force, you had people investigating, and it was a big meeting. People saw the debris. They were handling the debris. So we know there was debris. So another comment, by the way, how did the dog die? The dog was crushed by molten metal and did not work. It did not. Dog died in a John Wick moment. If we were wearing hats, I'd say take off our hats in the moment of silence for the poor dog. But we'll talk about the aftermath. So you got Ronald Dahl, that he gets his little 15 minutes of fame. He's told, recant, don't do it. This guy's life, he went from basically saying, listen, this happened. My boat's crashed. My dog's dead. My son's hurt. Get a lot of different comments. Another comment came through. If he faked that it wasn't actually an alien and he faked the whole thing, what killed the dog? Did they pick up rocks and chuck them at the dog? It had to have been real if the dog died. Yeah, the dog was basically hit with molten metal. That's
direct impact.
Yeah. So, but then again, okay, your boat's having issues and you have to crash it on the beach to save yourselves. Was there a fire on board? Let's go with the hoax. Let's go with he's hoaxed this whole damn thing. How did the dog die? Did he throw rocks at it? No, I think maybe if the boat was on fire and it's having a problem and he's got to beach it to save himself, maybe the dog got caught up. It was a fire.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing: is like, people don't kill their pets, or or like beach their boats, for a hoax. Something compelled them to beach the boat. Now, like in a scenario like Darren just mentioned, like if the boat catches on fire somehow, well, yeah, you're going to want to try to get to land as fast as possible so that you can safely get off of your vessel and not be stranded out in the middle of a body of water. So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Now, see, the interesting thing is you can actually see Maury Island from Tacoma. So if you go up by the Point Defiance beach, the Point Defiance Zoo, you can look over across the bay and see the island. It's just that close.
Yeah, so, but who wants to swim that? Like, if their vessel is on fire, who's going to go jump out of their vessel and swim that far? When if you have the means, you're going to go beach your vessel and then safely get off the vessel, because then you'll be safe on land. But again, if it's a hoax, you're not going to destroy your boat. But you're right. If there was a fire that happened aboard that vessel, then why not just be like, hey, there was a fire that broke out on the vessel, and we lost a dog in the fire. Why? you have to go back to motivation, right? What would ever possibly compel someone to just concoct a story like this for a hoax? I mean, there's got to be, people don't usually pass off hoaxes unless there is a significant payoff for it.
Well, I mean, if you had a fire on your boat, let's take two scenarios: UFO, burning stuff, burn my boat, fire on my boat. What's going to get me insurance money?
Did they do insurance back then?
I don't know, but somehow somebody's going to have to pay for the boat. You're going to have to. I mean, there's.
Well, that's what I mean.
Maritime law. You've got to say, why did you crash your boat?
Well, and that's what I mean is like, who in their right mind, like, this may have been, it's 1947. So it's like, this could be before the advent of, insurance for vehicles, right? Insurance wasn't required on motor vehicles until the 70s. Insurance as an industry really didn't pick up until the 50s or 60s. And I think it was more like later 60s. So like the whole notion of insurance, I don't know when it got its start. I don't know if people would have insured their vessels back then. But if the concept of insurance didn't exist back then there's really no incentive for someone to hoax the destruction of their boat like that. I mean, it's just again, playing devil's advocate there. That might have been an argument in favor of supporting what he's saying the first time around instead of recanting and calling it a hoax. I mean, personally, me, I think that I think he's either recanting because he got caught lying, or he's recanting because Big Brother has him under their thumb, and if he wants to have a like an easier going life, he's gonna play ball. And this is at a time in our nation's history where like that sort of thing did happen. It wasn't it wasn't. If anyone's seen Oppenheimer, you will see the level in which our government would go to keep a secret. And it's one of those things where it's like that it doesn't surprise me in the least that someone could be coerced by Big Brother and be like, play ball or else. So how's that coming from the resident skeptic?
I don't think you're much of a skeptic anymore.
Well, I just follow logic. I follow logic and reason.
James, you got any closing remarks?
Absolutely none now. None whatsoever.
Why nothing? Did I make your point for you?
You pretty much did. Again, Bill, thanks.
Damn, I'm good. I am so good. Or great minds just think alike. Let's just go with that. You're a great mind. I'm a great mind. Great minds think alike.
All right. Sure, Bill.
And nobody's drunk tonight. Wow.
No, unfortunately.
No, I'm drinking root beer.
All right, so we're rolling up
in a vitamin water bottle.
Hour mark.
All right. Sorry I was late.
Everybody for watching.
Stars late, blame stupid drivers.
Be sure to check us out, facebook.com/DBK Investigations. And also go to gapsociety.com. Give them a lot of love. And we will see everybody next week when we're probably going to discuss Area 51 because everything just seems to just lead right into another. Says Doc, I'm out.
I'll bring my tinfoil hat. This is Wild Bill. I'm signing off.
This is James, man. I'm out of here.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.